Hey, podcast listening people, Connor Doobie here. Welcome to another episode of the B2B Mentors podcast. I'm honored you're listening. And by the way, if you're watching this on any channel, we stream LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. You can also find this podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. Please make sure you go there, leave a 5-star review. And definitely because I'm here bringing you free insights, information, strategies, roadmaps to be extremely successful, whether it's personally or in your business, in the world of business to business, which is this quirky area that, I would much rather bring you some of the top practitioners, right? Those with a lot of experience and those that have created success, whether in their business or their personal life, and really just handing this down. So if this brings you any value, make sure you share it. And of course, today, we do some solo episodes where we talk about topics. And for today, I'm actually bringing you a guest who is a good become a good friend of mine, and all around just a really good dude to get to know. Greg Moores, Director of Marketing at Search Solution Group, which is nationally known, award-winning, full-service recruitment, staffing, and executive search firm that specializes in providing industry-specific external recruitment solutions. Greg, he has over 10 years of expertise in marketing, product and brand development, advertising, event marketing, technology, and business management. Greg, what up, man? Welcome to the show.
That was a mouthful. Thanks for the intro, Connor.
I know I need like an oxygen pump to get through all these bios sometimes. And what's worse is I'm kind of crafted that one for you. You've done a good handful of podcasts, but I'm like, I'm gonna just make, Greg is obviously a rock star, but I just want to, really blow this thing up for him. So
you did good. I was just sitting there. I was like, okay, I think it's gonna end soon, and then you'll get to talk and say thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I've loved working with you and your company over the past few months. And I saw this link in the bottom of your email signature, and I knew I wanted to get into podcasts at some point, and I've done a few here and there. I was like, man, that's pretty slick. I can just sign up for this, and boom, a month later, we're on a live podcast. So pretty cool. Thanks for having me.
You got the personality for it, you got the skills for it, and you got the experience. I wouldn't have
acquired the look.
Trying to model after the I get it, man. I tend to have that effect on people. The look, it goes to other, like, people come in the show, they're like, should I wear a tie and a suit? I'm like, if you want to, whatever you want to do, man, whatever makes you feel better. But
I thought it was fitting.
And we haven't even talked about this before, but I am very curious into what got you into the world of B2B marketing, and ultimately, like, what keeps you excited in it? Because, as I get to know you, you obviously love it, and you really do seem to enjoy what you do. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So B2B marketing, or marketing in general. If we went marketing general, we'd be going back all the way to probably high school, where I took my first web design class. And I was just loved the idea of being able to write things about a company or a product or an interest of yours, and then build kind of a digital platform to go visit the topics that you're interested in. So actually, that was my intro into marketing in general. Was a website design class, I think in like 10th grade. I wish I knew the teacher's name, because I'd go back and I'd tell her, I'd say, hey, I don't know if you knew this, but I'm where I am today because your class got me excited about kind of like the design side and the branding side, where you get to combine words, graphics, and then make something presentable, almost, to some people like myself and yourself, a piece of art. And then as far as B2B, I didn't get into B2B until junior year of college, where I was trying to make some money to kind of pay for food and pay for living during college. And I started working with a company called Sticky Brand. And Sticky Brand is a sticker and promotional company. They basically take orders across the nation for only stickers. And they have a great online presence. They do events. They have a good social media department. And that was kind of my first intro in B2B specifically. I'd always been into making videos. I'd always been a drawer on my own, a designer, a photographer. I used to snowboard a lot. So we do a lot of videos, snowboarding. So that was kind of like, there was a lot of aspects of marketing for me that I had interest in through my passions, which was snowboarding, sports, and those things. And then in college, you're like, okay, I got to find a way to mesh these things so I actually like my life after college. And that all came into culmination with that company, Sticky Brand, where I started taking those things I was good at, like photography, videography, graphic design, drawing, and then got an internship with them that turned into a full-time job. And that was the first introduction to like, oh, we do business with other businesses. You're not doing, content for your friends. You're not doing a video just to send out to your family, but you're actually making content and doing marketing from one business to another. And I would say that was my first intro into B2B. And then I kept that job for about 2 years and went on down or graduated, and then went and worked for a family company, my dad's company, High Tech Machinists, where basically I was the business development and marketing manager there, and got to have my first crack at rebranding an entire company and their website and their social media. And from there, I was hooked. They're a B2B company. They are a CNC machine services company. So they make metal parts for aerospace and defense companies across the country. And if there's one area that's very hard to do B2B, it's in medical B2B and government B2B, because it's tough to get those people's attention. But it was a really good intro for me, and taking the choice to kind of go a smaller business route than a marketing agency gave me the freedom to learn, dive into anything that needed to be done instead of being siloed into one thing. So I wasn't just doing social media. I wasn't just doing website. Right out of college, this would be kind of my second big gig. I was doing a little bit of everything. We were managing website projects. We were dabbling in online sales a little bit. We were making promotional videos. So that's kind of my quick intro. I don't want to take up our whole time here talking about my story, but for me, the B2B marketing came from a natural kind of transition from taking my interests, needing to pay the bills, and realizing that marketing was a fun way to take those things that I like and turn it into something that I can make money for. And that just happened to be a company that was doing B2B sales and marketing at the time.
And what is it about, even just marketing in general? Like what continues to add to your curiosity and interest and excitement about it?
I would say, I actually say this in interviews often, because when you're in the B2B space, sometimes you're interviewing for companies that your average person wouldn't find interesting, or your average person wouldn't think you could make it interesting. And to me, my first experience at that, working for a CNC machining company, was how do you make something that's boring exciting, or not interesting to most people and exciting? And to me, that's something that I've taken to every single company, whether it's a company that's very exciting for everybody who encounters them, or a company that's selling, medical devices to another medical company. My challenge and what I find exciting is to find ways to make it entertaining, make it something they want to watch, make it something they want to listen to, click on. And it's not easy. And I think that's what I kind of love about it, as well as kind of bringing in that original passions of mine: writing, design, videography, photography. And in general, marketing to me is super cool, because it has so many different facets that you can always keep learning, and you can always keep adding to what I call my toolbox. And having a job that you have that ability to do, like to go learn new things, to keep continually evolving, I think is what makes it fun to come in every day and continue to do it.
There is no one perfect path or roadmap for any given company. And that's why I like, really enjoy interviewing, guys like you, because there is such a wide range. I mean, there's definitely some framework you can have together, but every business is unique. Every client you're serving, is unique. And there's thousands of different ways to be able to go about it. Yep. And so I agree with you there. That's what keeps me excited. I'm a nerd.
Ever changing. It's literally just ever changing. There's always things to do. There's never a dull moment.
It's hard to get bored in that kind of position. You know what I mean?
If you're bored, you probably don't have enough drive at that moment. It's probably not the boredom. It's probably you don't have enough to do because you're not driven to do it. But no, I agree with you. But that's why I love marketing. It's a variety. It's new tasks every day, and you can kind of push your own envelope. And that's what I've loved to do at the last companies and the current company I'm in is, hey, that you start at one point and you tell them you're going to get from point A to point B, and getting from point A to point B is usually filled with bumps, bruises, laughs, meeting great people in the industry. And I think all of that culminates to kind of be an exciting industry that I wouldn't change it for many other opportunities at this point.
I think more companies than not are, especially as of recent, are going through rebrand, refresh, re-envisioning, ultimately what their company, their brand, all of that is going to reflect. And, you and probably a lot of marketers, even they've maybe been experienced in other positions, but haven't gone through the whole overhaul of refreshing a brand. You're doing it again. From your first experience, what were, some of the initial mistakes that you made in hindsight and, in reflection in some areas that like down the line became kind of like, aha, I wish I knew this earlier?
I would say when you speak about rebranding, you said mistakes. I was like, one thing popped right into mind. When you're entering a project with a third party, making sure that your important communications are done through email, especially when you're talking about expectations, deadlines, promises. Put them in email, put them in your contract. If there's anybody out there kind of starting a small business in web development or marketing, I'd say a lot of us overlook the details outside of what every marketer thinks is marketing, which is, making sure that you got your kind of butt covered on the contractual side. Making sure that you have expectations and deadlines that are not just in a conversation over the phone, but a conversation in email or in a contract. And I think the particular project I'm talking about was a website project where we had expectations outlined, and those expectations got skewed a little bit between month 1 and month 4 of the website project. And it just causes, if you can do it up front and make sure that, hire a consultant if you don't know what you're doing. That consultant's hours will pay for themselves time and time again over the longevity of that project. And they'll make sure that those little things that you need to, dot your I's and cross your T's on are taken care of. Because you can always enter at the beginning of your career, maybe if you're kind of a one-man band, as far as a marketing director or brand manager, you want to make sure that you learn those things quickly because they can be costly and they can be a real pain to go through. But yeah, website project was my first one.
And that seems to be the one every marketer I talk, like no website gets done on time.
Nope.
And expected that. I've rarely ever talked to someone like, we had this 6-month project and it was done right on schedule.
And no boss is going to be okay with you telling them no website project's done on time. That's why ours isn't done on time. They're going to be like, well, we had a deadline, so you had to hit it. So, but no, I think
just a pause on that really quick too. I think that's such an important point as a marketing leader to set expectations, not only with whether it's your internal or external team, but mitigating CEO's expectations of what's going to happen and in what time frame.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I've learned, I think, in the last few years of my career, mostly is communication is key. just because you have a piece of information that you don't think people want to hear, not communicating that is the ultimate downfall of trust in your organization, expectations. And it can also be super stressful if you're trying to keep things from, you're kind of trying to keep bad news from certain people. It's just not a good way to, it's not a healthy way to go about it. So always being great with communication and scheduling, kind of like these things that when you think about marketing when you were young, weren't a part of the marketing landscape. And then once you get into these managerial roles and you're, you know, developing brand strategies and schedules for entire departments of multiple people, man, do these little things that you never thought were a part of marketing really count. You know, scheduling, communication, planning, all of those things are a top priority once you get into the managerial kind of stage of things in your career.
So adjusting a little bit, what is it about Search Solution Group that piqued your interest in like devoting, you know, your expertise and time into, you know, building brand for? And if you want to talk a little bit about that and touch a little bit on, you know, deeper in Search Solution Group from what I shared earlier.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate a few things. Search Solution Group, we're a Charlotte-based direct hire executive search and temporary staffing firm. And we specialize in headhunting top talent for 10 main verticals. So if you think of a vertical as a department, our main ones are engineering, marketing, accounting, human resources, and then we have a few additional ones that aren't as large. But basically, we tackle any hires that a company might need that's outside of the scope of what they're comfortable making happen themselves. So we're kind of like a secret weapon, is like what we like to talk to ourselves or present ourselves as. Is you may have an internal hiring team, you may have a manager that can hire for themselves. The thing with hiring is it's very important to get the right hire. You know, it's probably the most important thing in an organization to make sure that you're building a team of successful and driven people. The other thing is that, you know, as an organization, you have to decide if you want your managers to only be hiring, which takes up a ton of time, or if you want to outsource that headhunting and recruitment process to a company like us. And the huge value in that is your managers get to keep doing their job while we get to put, you know, the top 3% of resumes in front of your managers. So if you think of, you know, I used to hire for myself at my last company, is I read through 100 resumes for every job. I then went and did all of those interviews for each of those people that made it to the next stage. What our company does is we vet those resumes for you. We have a pre-vetting screen, pre-vetting call with those candidates that we think make it to the next stage. And then depending on the requirements of the company, we'll then produce kind of the top performing candidates to that client so that they can choose from. And then we help them kind of select the best fit. So that's what Search Solution Group does. And we do a pretty damn good job at it. We've been growing exponentially since 2002 when we began as a one-man shop. And now we got over 100 employees here in Charlotte. And actually, I think you mentioned it, but I'll do one last plug on Search Solution Group. Is we made the number one executive search firm in Charlotte this year, which was a huge accomplishment. Amazing. For us. And
a lot of competition in that
really
area.
Exciting to come into a company and that be one of the awards that we got. But speaking to why did I jump into Search Solution Group? I was in manufacturing my whole life when it came to marketing. You know, Sticky Brand was a little bit different, but really most of my learning happened at a CNC machinery shop where we made metal parts and we promoted those services. And then I moved to a company called C.R. Onsrud here in North Carolina, where I actually got headhunted by a firm down here from Massachusetts all the way to North Carolina. And I love manufacturing. It's what my family does back home. It's what I've grown up doing. You know, I was 12 years old working on machines kind of on the weekends and on school breaks. So that's something that was really close to me. But it got to a point where I was driving 40 minutes to work every day here in Charlotte up to C.R. Onsrud. Loved what I did, loved the company, loved the people. And I was like, I just want to look for it. It was a great hiring time. It was like last 7 months ago. So peak of hiring season. And I was like, I want to see if I can find a job that's closer to me. It looks like my camera jumped out. Can you?
Yeah, I'm seeing that too.
You got audio?
I got audio.
All right.
Seems to be working.
Let's see if maybe.
Yeah, do what you gotta do.
Well, we'll just take a little break here. Let's see if this works.
Oh, there we go.
Just a little touch.
Back in action.
But yeah, the reason why I chose to do it is a huge, like, I was very comfortable with one industry. I wanted to challenge myself. I saw this job open and I was like, I don't know. I had to ask myself, you love machining, you love manufacturing. It's kind of in your blood. It's where you grew up, right? It excites me. I know how to excite other people about it. So when I was looking at Search Solution Group, we're basically a people company. We deal with people and other people who need those people. And when I asked myself, like, okay, how do you get excited about this? Like, is this a company you want to work for? What I looked at was my own experience of actually being headhunted down to Charlotte from Massachusetts from a recruitment firm. And what was cool is that they changed my life because of the opportunity they brought to me. And when I was like deciding whether or not this would be a fun industry to move in, I was like, I don't know if it's fun yet, but I do know I can help. I can have value in what I do, which is changing both businesses and the individuals that are a part of those businesses and changing their lives. I mean, when you transport somebody from Massachusetts to Charlotte and they move their whole family here, you're changing a lot of people's lives. You're giving them opportunities. So once I answered that question for myself, I was like, you know what? I think I can find value in this industry, which is huge. When I look at their marketing assets and what they have set up, they have a good foundation, but they have a lot of area for improvement. So as a marketing director, any company I'm going into, I either want to look at it as a project of like, they have very little, so there's so much opportunity, or they have a lot and there's still opportunity to build on. And Search Solution Group had a good foundation. They're fast growing, eager to kind of make changes and willing to do whatever it takes. So that was huge for me. When you sat down for your first interviews here, you know, it was kind of like, hey, we want to grow exponentially and we want you to be a leader in that growth. And we don't really care how you get there, but we want you to come up with a game plan and we'll back you. And that's what they've done. So that's how I ended up here. Look for opportunity, looked for challenge, and found both of them. And I also found a job that's 10 minutes away from where I live. So you can't complain.
Can't complain about that, man.
Not at all.
So when you did first step in, what were some of the initial things that you looked for in terms of, here's my roadmap of what I need to do to help the leadership in this company to reach their goals? Like, what did you identify? How did you identify it from a brand, from a, you know, marketing, from a lead generation perspective?
Yeah, no, great question. I think the first thing, in my experience, the first thing that I try to do, even in the interview process, is treat whoever's interviewing you for the job as if they're a potential client. So, you know, I can look at a company's website before I interview them. I can view their assets. I can get all my own ideas about what I think should be done, which is good. You should do that. You should have an evaluation process if you're interviewing for a company and know what you want to do. But the key is to, during the interview process, and then after you get hired, the next few weeks, is talk to people about what they consider success, what they want to be done, even if it's not marketing related, if it's business goals related, get those down on paper, make sure you understand them, and then start looking at your marketing toolbox and seeing how you can help achieve those goals. But to me, the biggest thing is treating your bosses or whoever's employing you as if they're a client, and going into it, making sure that you understand what the client expects, so that you don't go off on a huge website project that nobody ever wanted. That would be a mistake. So making sure you kind of have that communication right up front is key. Absolutely.
And so what were those, like, if we went to the top three priorities of like Search Solution Group, they're missing these pieces. It's an absolute must have in my mind to make, everyone's goals, come to fruition. What were those top three kind of key initiatives?
For Search Solution Group, it was website, team development. And I would say next would be performance marketing. So ads-based marketing. And I would probably tag in the performance marketing with just overall content creation, making sure that what we were putting out there was being received by the audiences that we want to reach. And to basically, we're not a small company, but we're not the biggest company. And to present ourselves as a company who can compete with the big guys, so that, you know, our presence online is as big as any other company's presence online, despite us maybe not being a publicly traded, recruitment firm. And to me, that was one of my goals, is to evaluate our company. The website needed an update. You evaluate the team, you know, who are the people here? What do they do? What are their salaries? What are they?
How many people were in the marketing team when you stepped in?
When I stepped in, there were 4 individuals, including myself. And then during kind of that evaluation process, you know, you sit down with people and you ask them, hey, tell me what you're doing. Tell me where your interests lie. So that's a huge thing for me, is like, you might have somebody on a team that you just entered, and what they're doing, they have no interest in doing. Therefore, their enthusiasm is never going to kind of produce the type of work that you want to produce. So an evaluation of your team is huge. Making sure that people are enthusiastic about work. You know, you can teach skills, you can't teach enthusiasm, or you can, but it's harder. So that was a big loyalty, things like that. But those top 3 were the biggest catalyst of evaluating Search Solution Group and saying, hey, I think there's a lot of improvement. The website needed some updating. There's a huge push on content that I felt like they were doing good, but we could bring it to a whole new level. You know, we have 60,000 followers on LinkedIn, a great audience. We had great content when I came in, and all we've done since then is find ways to improve it. We had no video content. We weren't writing our own blogs, and that's how me and you actually got introduced, was really finding a solution for our needs for blog writing, specifically not only for SEO purposes, which was a major contributor to a decline in organic leads over the past year for us, but also in thought leadership and being a voice in the audiences that require our services, and making sure that we provide them with value. I mean, you know, as well as anybody on LinkedIn, you can't just scream out, I'm a recruiting company, come to us. We have services that will help. You have to really be a thought leader, strategically build content around what people's needs are and what they want to hear on a daily basis. But I would say those are the top 3.
And you guys, like, having 60,000 followers on LinkedIn ain't nothing to shake us. I mean, there's larger, from a revenue perspective, staffing firms out there compared to, you know, what you guys have built. So you're obviously doing something right in terms of, you know, content. And I'd like to take full responsibility and acknowledgement for just kidding. But one thing also, and I don't know, you guys listening to this are picking up on this, but Greg obviously thinks very much like an entrepreneur in the way that he manages and oversees your department in the big picture of the business. Like, it's honestly, it's something that you probably don't even think twice about, but other marketers don't go into a position looking at what's the bigger overview goals of everyone, not just the marketing goals, but, like, you know, truly the in-depth goals and motivating your team and staffing the right team. And just the way you, and we've obviously worked together. I see how you operate. And you said your dad owned another company, right?
Yep.
So you've come from a family of entrepreneurs. I think it's one of the best skill sets that any marketing leader can really develop, is that intrapreneur kind of mindset. Not just I'm an employee, I'm going to plug in, but I am an intrapreneur, whether I'm the lowest level employee, I'm the owner of this business that I have right here, or I'm the CEO/founder of the company. You know what I mean?
100%. And I hadn't really thought about myself as an entrepreneur, and I think that our entrepreneur, but entrepreneur, either one. But now that you say it, I take an approach to a marketing department that your marketing department should run as a business. And if it doesn't, then you should outsource your entire marketing department who runs marketing as a business.
Mhm.
I think, and I wrote down something I want to talk about today, but there's, in my experience, I run a kind of split goal marketing department. Our number one goal is to bring in sales. Our number two goal is to build the fundamentals of a company and a brand and a voice that over time, that's kind of like your short-term, long-term. Short-term, we're going to run ads, we're going to build ads, we're going to have a great website, we're going to make sure to bring in sales at a really increased rate. But also evaluate us on projects that are going to take a lot of time, take a lot of thought, take some development. That's your long-term brand strategy, your long-term content strategy. SEO is one of those. It's not one that you can just flip on and it starts working day of. Like, a sales department can go from making five phone calls a day to 100. You can't go from 0 blogs in one day to 100.
And that's tough to convince leadership to have the patience to see that through.
Yep.
We're going to take actions in the next 12 months that we're not going to see results from until 24 months. You know what I mean? That's
100%.
really difficult for a lot of marketers in your position.
And that's why I take that split approach. I focus on something that they are really adamant about, which is ROI in the marketing department. And I say, hey, we're going to do that. We're going to accomplish these things. And we're going to start with X, Y, and Z.
AKA, where are the leads? Where are the leads? Where are the leads?
Exactly.
We want leads.
So address that. Like, if that's their thing, be like, hey, I'm going to make a deal with you. I'm going to focus on that for my first 3 months. But after that, I'm going to do some projects that won't come to fruition analytically for 4 to 6 months. And because I focused on that, let's have this agreement. Let's have that great communication of what those expectations are. And to me, it's like, that's the way to look at marketing, at least in the companies that I've worked at. Is it's not just, making content. It's not just, having events, but it's making money. I recently just did a whole evaluation on every single dollar that the marketing department spends, from employees to subscriptions. Did a calculation on the revenue we brought in, marketing related revenue, and even charged our department the services of our sales department as a percentage, so that we could get our ROI and figure out how much money we were actually making the firm. And I think that's a huge piece that if people aren't thinking about it,
know your numbers in and out. Know your freaking numbers.
Yep. And that's actually what leads. This is a great transition, but knowing your numbers is what led me to contact you for blog writing. We had somebody that was getting paid a hefty amount to do blog writing and email marketing. And when I started looking at companies who could maybe help us out with the blogs, the blog quality wasn't where I wanted it to be. And neither was the other task that this person was doing. They, like, both qualities were here. I would have liked them to be here. And this person was making a good chunk of money. So making those calculations of like, okay, what am I getting? What is it costing me? And is there a third party that could help me do this? And probably jump the gap of me needing to train this employee who's been doing it for the last 3 months their own way. That's going to take time from me. There's still going to be an expensive salary that I have to pay. And maybe they're not hitting the quality that I wanted. And that's kind of where I got introduced to Proven Cut, as I was doing those calculations. And I was like, we need a company who knows how to do blogs, who, once we put a schedule together, will research them, will create them, and will kind of spearhead the entire process. And what we found with you guys was that exactly. And what was cool is that allowed my marketing department to transition that employee into a different position, reduce our costs for every blog that was being created, increase our volume for all the blogs that we wanted to create, increase the quality, and then freed up more salary room to bring in somebody else that I really wanted to add to the team. And like, that's like, you can't ask for much more.
I mean, what you shared right there is what freaking lights me up.
What you do,
it's just like, it's really exciting to hear that. Yeah, obviously from a selfish perspective, but it's really cool to hear that all the things we position the company as, we're getting that feedback from a direct client that's actually, in it and doing for several months now, and so that's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, that's always this battle of in-house versus third party. And
I say outhouse, in-house versus outhouse.
out.
Just because it's funnier to say.
It is.
You got your in-house, you got your outhouse, and you got your hybrid.
Yeah, no, but it's worked out, and I think in marketing departments of our size, where we have a 4-person team in-house right now, and we work with 2 external partners, or 3 external partners, one for web development, one for Google Ads management, and then you guys for our content. And it's strategically choosing when and where to do that allows you to build a team internally that might be able to accomplish other projects that kind of weren't on the table at the beginning. So,
and I think that's important too. On the flip side of why you shouldn't outsource also is in a case where you do really need at least in-house resources to manage those vendor relationships. Otherwise it also doesn't work. And you also kind of like, the reason our relationship has worked is you've made the attempt to do it in other ways and to get it done, which has led you to the conclusion of why this makes sense. And I think that's honestly the best clients we have in long-term relationships is they have gone through figuring it out and then realizing, okay, I've got some semblance of systems. Now we can really scale it out and we got to figure out how, and inexpensively as well.
Yep.
So what is your recommendation for other marketers? And we'll start to wind this thing down here in terms of trying to assess, how do I build and staff, my own marketing team / vendors, and kind of what levels to be looking at in order to be making those moves?
Yeah. I mean, depending on what industry you're in, B2B, B2C, or industry, I think that's going to vary tremendously. What are your goals as a department are going to define what you need to have internally and what you need to have externally. The budget that you're being given may not allow you to have everybody internally that you need, or may not allow to have you add on external parties that help you out either. For me, it was finding out the goals from the company leaders, evaluating where our team's expertise was, what it was costing us to achieve those, and then comparing it to third-party prices. And not only that, but like, I don't look at like, oh, I have an employee that does this one thing and a third party could just do it and then I wouldn't have to deal with them. Like, no, like you give them a chance to change what they're doing, to improve it to the standards that you want. And then if that doesn't work, you move on to that third party. But you also have to take into consideration, like when you're making that evaluation, here are our goals, here's our team, what they specialize in, here are the gaps to fill. How long is it going to take me to train somebody internally to fill those gaps versus how long is it going to take to bring somebody on board who this is what they specialize in, and they're going to come in right away. They're going to have suggestions, not just ask me for a plan and ask me to tell them what to do, but they're going to have suggestions on how to do it best and to the best practices. So for me, that's the ultimate way to build out your team is talk to management. What are the goals? Evaluate your team, not only their skill sets, what they're doing now, but where their interests are. You're going to have people on your team that have an interest in something that you need that they're not currently doing. Get them on that project. And then start looking at where your gaps are, where third parties could help, and then compare what the cost would be to bringing on a new employee, training an existing employee, or bringing on a third party that is an expert in what they do. And there's certain things that tend to be things that you can outsource for. For us, our long format blog writing was something that we didn't have a skill set internally, and it was a perfect fit for teaming up with a company like yours. Another example of outsourcing that we didn't want to hire somebody full-time. We didn't need a full-time web developer. We also didn't want to pay another company, 50 to 200 grand to redo an entire website and brand. So, well, we have a designer now in-house. So I'll break it down for you. We have myself, marketing director. We have a marketing manager. who also does all of our social media. Then we have a graphic designer and a content producer, senior content producer. And that senior content producer is mainly on video. But that team allows me to have we have creative control and managerial control that works in all of our marketing channels. And then we together kind of work with these third parties to make sure that we're all in sync. And it's worked pretty well.
And it seems to me you're just lean enough to be able to pivot quickly, make decisions very quickly,
Yep.
manage vendors effectively. Because on the flip side, how many companies way overstaff, either that department, so and then understaff it. So it's like, from what I'm picking up from you and for everyone listening, is it really depends. But number one, take real entrepreneurship, ownership over your department, know your numbers in and out. And if you can't figure out your numbers, find the resources that you can figure out your numbers, because it's going to save you a lot of heartache and, frustration, not only for yourself, but with your leadership team down the road.
It'll save you your job sometimes. Like if you're like, hey, I need to hire 3 people, and they're like, well, where are the numbers? You go figure out that you're in the negative as far as the marketing department.
Right.
Well, they're not going to look at that very, very nicely. So I'm with you. Numbers are key, goals from leadership, and then looking to where your strengths are, where your gaps are, where your weaknesses are, and for great third-party providers like yourself who can help out.
Very wise. And I broke my promise to you. I said, 20 minutes, but the conversation was really good. So we just kept rolling, man. But on that, let's wind this thing down. We could definitely, you're always welcome to come on. You're my brother,
I would love to.
And you can always record anytime with me. We'll do some more podcasts in the future, dive into other topics. But what is the best way for people to find you, follow you, get into contact with you?
Yeah. For the company, searchsolutiongroup.com is your best place to go. We are on LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We are on TikTok. Searchsolutiongroup.com. And that's for your any recruitment, staffing, or headhunting needs. And then for myself, Greg Moores on LinkedIn would be a great place to connect. Always open. If you guys have any questions about what we talked about today or anything like that, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. I'll get back to you. But no, I appreciate you having me on. And I know we kind of covered a lot of things here, but I'd love to get on and talk some specifics about any topics that you guys have coming up that are important to the audience here.
Definitely. And I know you guys are constantly looking for people to hire and even for positions. Obviously, really great team, great culture over there. Greg's a great guy. If you ever see him put a post out for hiring someone in the marketing department, like, jump on that if you see it, and I'll always be sharing it. So I can't thank you enough, brother. I really appreciate you. And especially all of you listeners, I get your DMs, I get your messages. I see all of the downloads we get every month. I'm so grateful for you. Much love to you all. Make it great. And we will see you over in